Good day, ladies and gentlemen. We just got off our webinar. We had a serious mishap. We had a serious situation where we were invaded in our webinar by, should I say, a spammer or somebody who just decided that they're just going to come in and disturb us all the way. So, as promised, here is the recording. I am now doing a recording of the webinar so that we can be able to have this ready for you. I've promised you this content, and it's a very serious and very important, should I say, session for me, because this is basically what I know the most, or what I enjoy rather the most in the property business: buying and selling of property. Buying and selling of property. So are you buying to sell? That's today's question that you need to ask yourself. Are you buying to sell? All right. Now, what you will notice is that some of the things that of the slides here are slightly similar to one of our previous webinars when we're teaching people how to buy correctly. Simply because buying is buying. There are a lot of similarities in buying to sell or when you buy generally. But there's more further detail when you are buying to sell, because now you've got a short-term plan for the property. And there is a lot more other financial things that are needed. Therefore, you need to be more peculiar, more diligent when you are now buying in this instance. Now, is immovable property an asset or a liability? In the context now we're talking of buying and selling. Now, it depends on the use that will happen between the time you've bought up until the time you sell. It will also depend on the complete holistic financial structure of the transaction for that specific transaction that you are doing it. Remember now this one, remember, I'll keep reminding you as we go along, that you are buying to sell, not buying to keep or to grow your portfolio or to grow your wealth. You are buying to sell, you are growing your capital or whatever the reason is, or you just want to enjoy the profits. Okay, now when does any property become an asset? Again, in the same context, when the selling price exceeds the expenses. Now, the expenses, and I'm not saying, you must note, I did not say when the value of the property and the selling price, or rather the purchase price, is below the value, because you will not always sell at value when you're buying and selling. So that is why I'm focusing only on the selling price and your expenses. So as long as your selling price is above your expenses, you are good with that transaction. You've had a successful deal. Now, what is a good deal, a good asset? We still go back, we're saying it's a day one asset. You might have heard me repeat it almost with every webinar, talking about a day one asset. I need it to be in your mind all the time. When you're thinking of buying, you must ask yourself these questions. Is it a day one asset? Now, in this context of buying to sell, it is similar with the other ones. Am I going to make profit? Of course, here, the profit, it is not your monthly expenses versus your monthly income. It is your holistic expenses, like we've alluded in the previous webinar. It is now all your expenses, you purchasing and you selling. That's how we look at the profit now. Now, the right purchase. The right purchase is everything combined. It must be right. It must be the right location. It must be the right, you must make profit. It must be the right price. It must be the right everything. You must purchase right. Now, you remember, I have said previously that a great deal becomes great at how you bought, not at how you sold. How you sell is the very last stage. It's late. If you bought right, by the time you need to sell, you will be relaxed because you know you'd make your money. There will be no pressure. So now it is more important that you become very diligent and peculiar, or particular, they would say, about the amount you pay upon and how you buy that you bought right. Now, going forward, is that when does any property become a liability? Simply when it takes money from you. When the money that you pay in is more than the money you are going to make. Here, I'm not talking about the money you need to spend towards you making profit. I'm not talking about the money that you are spending towards renovations, towards paying the legal fees. I'm talking about a holistic transaction here. All right. Now, this was our Q&A section, so let's go over through the slide to the next one. How do I prepare to buy? Okay. Now, you will already see here in this slide, there is a question mark everywhere. When you are buying, you ask yourself many questions, mostly with buying with the intention of selling. You have to answer so many questions. And if you are a diligent person, a person that likes to take time and think and do my calculations and do my numbers and do my meditating and do my praying and do anything like that, you need to be able to be satisfied in asking these questions upfront in advance. And I'll tell you in our next slide why. Now, when do I buy? How long am I going to hold this property? Very important, because remember now, the how long will determine your return on investment, what they would call ROI. It will determine your return on investment. For an example, if you sell, we'll stick with this example for the whole webinar. If you spend 500,000 in buying a property, that is worth 750. And if you sell, I want you to see the difference of the timing of how long you can keep a property so that you can understand. If you sell, you are able to renovate within a month and put the property on the market, and it is sold and you've gotten all your money back within 4 months, for an example. Your return on investment, let's say you sell it at full price of 750,000. You have spent 500,000. Your return on investment will be 50% in 6 months. Now, same property, 500,000, same price, 750. It takes you longer to sell, or you decided to keep, now I'm only going to sell it after a 1.5 years or 2 years. By the time you sell after 2 years, you end up for some reason, sell it for 750. Now your ROI, your return on investment, in terms of holistically, before you go deeper into investigating it, it looks the same. It still made 50%. But now you made 50% over 2 years. Now, if you look at it, your return of investment per annum, with the previous one, your return on investment per annum could be 100% because within half a year, you made 50%. But on the second example, per annum, now you take 50%, divide by 2. Now it moves from possible 100 to 25%. So that is why the timing and how long I'm going to hold becomes important. Now, you must also ask yourself the following questions. How am I going to buy? Is it through an agent, through sellers, or through online, through auctions? We'll talk about those later on. And whose money am I going to use to buy here? Now, this set of questions, these are the preliminary questions. Now, you're asking yourself these questions before you get a deal in front of you. This is now you preparing to do this. You are preparing, you've made up your mind, I'm going to buy a property to sell it. Now, step 2, after you've made that mind or that decision, you've made up your mind and made that decision, now you start to ask yourself these questions. You are preparing yourself in going forward with these possible transactions. All right, the credit record. Of course, the credit record goes to, it depends with which money, whose money am I going to use. If you're going to use a financial institution's money, a bank or any other financial institution, you will need your credit record to be good. And then the parties that are involved, now you're asking yourself questions now. You understand? Call it you are doing research or you are preparing yourself. The transfer duration, how long is it going to take to transfer this property? Okay, you're getting yourself ready. Now you're asking yourself the cost, the fees to be paid to the lawyers and the costs that are going to be involved, including renovations and everything. You understand that, like I put on the footnotes, including improvements or any other cost that might be involved. Okay. Now, you're starting to, you've asked all those things on your side. Now you're starting to ask questions that are relating to the next person or the next parties that are involved. Now, how do I buy? Yes, they're still directing to you first, but they will mostly involve other people as well now. How do I buy? Patience. Patience, patience, patience. Remember the previous slide? I said you ask yourself those questions in preparation. While you are patient, you ask yourself those questions. And why am I saying we need to be patient? Because property is a industry of patience and waiting. It's a waiting game. You wait for the right moment. And when you are waiting for the right moment, sometimes the money could itch in your hands, because this money is, you're starting to feel like I'm starting to use it a little bit. Then rather put the money somewhere at a place where you cannot easily touch. But you wait for the right transaction. It will come, but you wait, don't rush. You need to learn, because you are going to sell here. Your objective is to sell. And that means then you have a short time to get your money back. You will not be able to have a longer time to recover where you can put in tenants. You could, of course, you would have bought the property, but you don't want to be forced to do that, because this was your objective, was to sell. Now, after your patience, you strike quickly, and you don't stop relentlessly for that deal, because it has come. Now, you need to prepare yourself. If you are a person that needs time to process things, if you're a person that does not like to do things under pressure, during the time that you are waiting, you need to ask whoever is assisting you. Of course, we can assist you in YDT group. Whoever is assisting you, all those questions that you might have in advance during that time, so that when the time comes to strike, it is not time that you are now asking questions and feeling under pressure. And during that time, please be preparing your mind as well, that there will come a time where I'm going to need to pay fast. So I need to be ready and be prepared for that time. You understand? Because that deal, most of the time, it is because good deals like that in property, they are moving. They come and they go very fast. If you are still going to take your time to understand it, to do this, by the time you say, yes, I'm making my decision, deal is gone. Now you have missed out after you had waited. You understand? So it would not be the next person trying to put you under pressure. It will be the nature of the transaction. Now, the next question is deposit or full price. Am I going to pay a deposit and work around it, or do I pay full price up front? That is if you're buying cash. And then am I going to buy cash or through a bond or home loan? Am I going to negotiate, or am I going to go through or am I going to for the sympathy route? Now, I'll make an example where this one applies. This one applies in a situation you come across a seller. The seller has lost their their job, sorry. And now they're about to lose their home. The bank is going to repossess. They have opted to sell. They have no choice. They are going to lose their home in any case, with you involved or with you not involved. Now, you already know how much the bond settlement is, and you already know how much you can buy for and how much it is worth, because you've done your homework well. Now, when do you stop to negotiate? And when does empathy or sympathy or conscience starts to step in to say that now I cannot go beyond this, because I must also be fair to the other person? Those are the questions, because you are going to come across those transactions, mostly if you are buying to sell, because the lower you buy, the more profit you can make, because you're going to sell higher. Now you need to answer those questions to yourself, for yourself, and ready yourself for such situations. Now, is it there going to be renovations, or am I buying, or am I going to sell as is? You understand? Or even buying, am I buying with renovations? Are these people going to renovate before registration? So am I buying with renovations? Or am I buying as is? Also, the same thing, when I sell, am I going to first renovate before I sell, or am I going to sell as is? And don't now ever allow anyone to say footstools to you anymore. That is not in law. It is no longer legal anymore, except for auctioneers. Even the auctioneers have to specify and say the faults that they know, or the defects that they know of the product or the property that they're selling. So now we use as is, which is practically almost the same thing, but it's got different legal implications with it. Now you must know your market. That's how you prepare to buy. You know the market. Is it the time to sell? How quick can I sell? Is it even a time to buy? Because if it's a good time to sell, it could mean it's a bad time to buy, because then you will not get a good price in buying, but you could get a good price in selling. So if you're not going to get a good price in buying, what then is the point? Because you will not make a profit there. All right. Now, where do I buy from? Okay. Now there are different places where you can buy from. You can buy from an auction. There is a whole serious morality issue that we can discuss another time. That is another even webinar to discuss buying on auction. You understand? But to put you at ease right now, to summarize it, unless you had anything to do with a property being attached and sold in execution at an auction, you should not have any moral obligation towards the next person. You can help them. You can do other things by not throwing them out after you've bought and helping them to get another place. But again, not making them your burden, because other people then can start to depend on you, because they've seen he bought our house, he feels guilty, so therefore he must feed us every month, he must pay our rent when we're going. No. You understand? If you have a challenge with this area, I would highly recommend that you work through a professional that can do anything and everything, and you have nothing to do with the other party. Now, the people that always have a challenge with this is people of great high moral value, and these are your religious people most of the time. You understand? But this is a legal situation. It's business. I'm sure now you can already tell it's business. It's not personal. All right. Now, the next place you can buy from attorneys, which is through estates. Estates is a deceased estate. It's a insolvent estate. It's a divorced estate. It can be any form of estate, or liquidations or sequestrations. Now, these people, when they have to sell these properties, now attorneys in any of these categories, it is because there is a time frame. It is because there are legal steps that were followed, and it was deemed final that there's no other way but these properties to be sold. And most of the time, there is a time frame that these properties need to be sold by, which means then that thing comes back of acting fast and quick. And when the attorneys present these deals, they normally get in touch first with the people that normally buy from them, or they get in touch first with the agents that normally offload, they say, or off-take these properties from them and sell them for them faster, because the agents have a relationship with a number of buyers, which is why I said with point number 4, jumping to it, if you're buying from agents, it's very rare to buy great deals that you can sell and make extreme good profit from agents, because by the time they advertise publicly, they've already called their usual clients that buy such deals, unless, of course, you have created relationships with those agents yourself, that they called you first. You can also buy from sellers. Standing in a queue at the bank, the seller starts to talk and communicate that they are in trouble, they just need to sell their house, they just need to break even, or they just need to get out of here and start again fresh somewhere, and all those things. Then you can do that. But even then, when you've met that seller, do not do the transaction on your own. It can get very tricky. All right. Now you have already looked it through everything else. You've looked, you know where to buy, you've prepared yourself, you've asked all those questions, you've checked the right deal. Now you're starting to make an informed decision. Now what happens is, now when this stage comes, it is normally when the deal is in front of you now. Now the transaction is in front of you. We're no longer talking, we're no longer planning, we're no longer patient. Now the time to act fast is here. You need to make a quick decision so that you do not lose the deal and move on fast. Now, these are the points that will help you to make a decision. Again, you ask yourself questions when you're making the decision. What's the risk in this? How high is my risk in this in terms of me getting a return? How low can I sell this property that I'm going to spend 500,000 in everything? How low can I sell? It is worth 750, but how low can I sell? You understand? How low can I afford to sell? How low can I sell is maybe dependent on the market. How low can I afford to sell is dependent on how much I've spent and how much I am willing to go down to in terms of selling. And then you look at the holistic financial implications, not just one area, the holistic financial implications of the transaction. You understand? Let's break it down again. Let's say that 500,000 that you have spent in buying that property, the 400,000 is the purchase price. The other 100 is for renovations, the legal fees. Maybe you need to do electrical certificates. Maybe these guys were in trouble. They didn't even pay the local authorities, the municipality. They owe water for another 15,000. All those things broken down. Now you calculate and look at everything holistically. And again, now you decide, because now you know the transaction itself, that it's going to be long, it's going to be short, in terms of estimations. You know how much money it needs, you know how quick it can sell, because you know the areas, you now know anything. Then you decide again. Now this is an they would call it on training, maybe action or what. This is now in the transaction. You are now asking yourself this question within the transaction. Now you ask again, whose money am I going to use? Because now you know the facts. Then you decide whose money you can use for this transaction. And then you ask the questions from all the previous slides again. You ask yourself again all those questions now, because now the deal is in front of you. And then be ready to act fast on your decision, like I said. I cannot stress it enough when you're buying to sell. It is an industry of timing property. So you need to be ready to act fast on your decision when the time comes. Or if you feel under pressure, then ask them to pass the transaction to somebody else. Now, you ask yourself again, do I repeat or do I stop? That will be dependent on these 4 factors. Your vision. What is your vision? Perhaps my vision, it is to raise a capital of 1 million rand because I need to buy my own home cash, or because I need to pay off my house cash, or I need to, there's many reasons. Maybe I'm raising capital, full stop. Or it is because I want to buy my other properties that I'm going to hold cash. So therefore you can just decide, okay, every third property that I'm buying, I am not going to sell, I'm going to keep with the cash, and then have change to start again the buying and selling. So your vision will determine whether you are going to repeat or you're going to stop. We've already touched on perhaps you are growing the capital, full stop, whatever reason. Of course, you will have a target of how much you are growing your capital to, at least to start with, and then from there you can keep growing. And then whose money I'm going to use? You ask that question again before you decide I'm going to repeat or I'm going to stop. Because you asked yourself the first time before you did your first transaction, and then you check on your previous performances. Very important. Very, very important. You check on your previous performances. Now here you are, you see my previous performances, I did very well. I made profit, but it took me 2 years to sell. Is it worth it for me to continue buying another property if it's going to take me 2 years? Or do I then continue but find a property that is not going to take me that long to sell, maybe in an area that is in high demand? Again, if you think like that, then you must also think to say, if an area is in high demand, the chances are very slim that I will get a very serious bargain in that area, because then people will be willing to pay more for it because it's a very good area. So those are the things that you need to check and you need to assess before you talk about going forward. Now, we go to the conclusion. Now, do your homework. Do your homework now already. Do your homework. We can help you with the homework at YDT group through all the stages. We can help you to implement and effect your purchases through all the stages. We can help you with anything and everything through all the stages. The last point or the question that you ask yourself is, you are now already a seller. You have bought, you have renovated, now the property is in the market. You bought, you did the deal, the property is now in the market. Now you must now decide what is important to you. Is it money or is it time? Normally, that's where the crossroads are. It's either money is important to you or time is important to you at that moment when you are selling. Let's go back to our example. If then you had a target to say that I am raising this money, this profit, so that I can have this profit I'm going to make, I'm going to do my wedding with it. And my wedding is in 9 months. Now, come month 6, the property is not sold. At that time, chances are time will be more important to you because it takes almost 3 months to transfer the property before you get your money back. So time might be important to you, meaning if an offer for 600,000 comes, you might end up taking it because to you at that moment, time is important. However, you do not have a pressing issue but you decide I'm sticking to my money, regardless of whatever. I want my 750. I am not willing to debate. I'm not willing to negotiate. I would rather wait a year or 2 years. So you always need to know which one is important for that specific transaction. You unfortunately cannot put an umbrella approach for all your transactions because your situation sometimes changes. Because you might find a new deal while you are thinking, I'm not under pressure, man, I can take 2 years. And then after 10 months, a new deal that comes that only needs 600,000 and that property is worth 1.2 million. Your situation will change. You would be willing to take the 600,000 because you know that 600,000, I'm going to buy another property very fast that is going to make me double the money rather than I wait for 2 years and I only get 250. You understand what I'm saying? So you then decide this with every transaction that you do, every time. I think that concludes it. It is a 3-part series, this, just on its own, even including the other webinars that are separate about buying on auction and where to buy, buying through the lawyers. This is a seriously deep thing that if you want to enter into this space, I would never recommend that you do it by the way and you think you can go to an auction and buy a property by yourself and still be able to be safe and go away with it. It is too risky. There is so much at stake for you to do so. Please do not do it on your own. We are here to assist you or any professional that is close by where you feel comfortable. Thank you for watching this webinar. Be in touch with us so that we can be able to assist you in implementing your buying and selling strategy and even helping you to get those deals. We start from the beginning up until the end. Just you thinking that I want to buy a property, whether to sell or to keep or for myself or for income, we can help you to pre-qualify from that time and implement every stage of the way up until you are fully done with what you have objected to do with the property. Thank you very much. Stay tuned for more. And once again, we apologize for the breaking and for the people that invaded our previous webinar. Thank you very much. Stay blessed. Bye.